Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum. I am Aisha Khan, an ambitious, open-minded and proud Muslim woman. Looking back at the Islamic history, it will not be hard to find women who are innovative, leaders or entrepreneurs. It is said that the property of Lady Khadija, the Prophet ﷺ's first wife, financed Islam in its infancy. Islam then elevated the position of women in so many ways. Join me as I set out to go on dates with Muslim women from all walks of life to find out who they are, what they do, and what role Islam plays in their lives. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Meet and Greet Show with yours truly, Aisha Khan. Today, I am headed to the Monarch Hotel to meet a very brave and courageous lady who underwent the cut known as female genital mutilation at just the age of 6. Today, she has dedicated her life into fighting and standing up with girls against FGM. She goes by the name Maryam Abdikadir Sheikh. Join me as we get to know more about her story. FGM involves the partial or total removal of the external female genitalia or other injuries to the female genital organs for cultural purposes. More than 200 million girls and women alive today have been cut in 30 countries in Africa, the Middle East and Asia where FGM is concentrated. FGM is recognized internationally as a violation of the human rights of girls and women. It is nearly always carried out on minors and is a violation of the rights of children. I am finally at the Monarch Hotel with the lovely Maryam Abdikadir Sheikh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Maryam, you have been born and bred in the northeastern area, a region that is leading in female genital mutilation. Tell us about your experience, especially how you underwent the cut at the age of 6.
Thank you very much. As you rightly put it, that region many times leads, is always the last, even when you just mentioned the regions. But when it comes to FGM, it tops. We're talking to the tune of 98%, and they cut girls between 5 and 10, mostly between 6, 7, and 8. So yes, I was one of the girls during my time who were cut. I was cut at 6 years. By that time, if I recall, it was this thing of, you have to undergo a painful thing, but it's up to you to either show you are brave or you're a coward. So somehow, I don't know, maybe the society was trying to shift blame from themselves so that you don't see they have taken me through a painful thing. But it's like, oh, I could not withstand. I wasn't brave enough, So, yeah, and it's been done decades ago. People think you forget. It's not easy to forget. Especially if you are cut by a razor or a knife. The first time it's cutting, yes, it's painful, but later on, as the nerves pick, is when, and that is something called hamfafa in the Somali community. It's the thing I recall until today. That hamfafa, it was the most painful thing. It's like a million insects eating into you. It's I was moving and I was like crying and it was really very, very, very painful ordeal. And nothing prepares you for that. No, nothing actually prepares you for that.
How do they actually take you to it? Like when you're growing up, are you told stories about it or you just dragged there?
No, there's stories around it, and sometimes it's stories of women wanting to make it look like it is they were brave enough, and because they were brave, their mother was feted, she was praised, they were given presents. So somehow the focus is not how painful and how bad it is. It is on this one thing that you must go through, but because there's some little pain, it's only the brave who will be able to withstand. So even as a young girl, you begin thinking, oh, I know I'll go through it anyway. So you're like, oh, I would want to be brave. I would want to show I'm brave. But I was a very timid person. And I was the last, and so I watched when everyone was being cut, and as they were wailing and crying, and every time, and my like the reality of what I was going to go through was becoming more and more evident. And so by the time I was now the one made to sit in between this jumbo woman, and my legs and my hands were being held apart. I was already almost half dead, I would say.
Well,
Yeah.
it sounds to be a very painful ordeal. But a question that lingers in my mind, and I'm sure the viewers out there, is despite knowing, you know, how painful it is, and this is infringing on the right of a child and a girl, you know, and the repercussions are very many. We're looking at gynecological problems, psychological trauma, and even painful pains during childbirth, you know. Why do they still practice it?
It's one of those things called a social norm, and when a community has been practicing something for a long time and it places rewards and places praise around it, there's a narrative around it, there are sayings and there are beliefs holding it into place, then a social norm is something you can't even justify or explain, even as a person from that community. Why would someone want to take their own daughter, a daughter they love, something they went through that was that painful? You know, it just beats every logic. But you know, when a norm is a norm, there's no explanation from outside. So it's a norm, it's a social norm, but not only is it a social norm and a cultural practice, it's a practice that has been wrapped around Islam. We are unable to just unwrap this beautiful name, Sunnah, Mubah. It is Islamic, it is required, it has to be done. These all things, and people quoting, you know, like a hadith that are weak and all that. So one of the other things that is holding it in place is really the justification that is given as if this practice is Islamic. And then people don't actually link the harms you talked about and the outcomes, the negative outcomes are not linked. Something that was done at 5 years, you're giving birth at 2022, you have complications, there is no link. However much studies show, however much you want to, but there is no link. In the mind of the community, there is absolutely no link. They don't see that link. So again, there is also that being in darkness. But then, there are those of us who know, but still do. And I come back to that element of it's this norm. It's this norm you think it's the only way. It's because of the narratives around it.
This brings me to the next question. You know, a lot of people, as you said, are justifying this act of going through female genital mutilation as being Islamic. They say it's there in the hadith, the Daif hadith. So what is the link between Islam and female genital mutilation?
Nothing. It is just a misinterpretation of Islamic texts. Some of them strong hadith, yes, but there's one word, there's one Arabic word there that is confusing everybody, even the Arabs themselves, al-khitan. And al-khitan clearly shows is male circumcision. It has nothing to do with the female cut. So it is the misinterpretation, the misunderstanding. So it is this practice people had as their culture, and then now they find sort of like, quote unquote, a misguided justification. People even quote a weak hadith. What is weak hadith in Islamic jurisprudence? We know it's not even supposed to see the light of day. But you are actually causing harm, you know, harming this girl child, affecting her life throughout, cutting organs that Allah has created that have function, and then you're quoting a weak hadith. It's just a total, you know, like we've lost it. We've lost it. We've lost it at that point.
Well, you underwent the cut at the age of 6, you know. Growing up, you felt it was very normal to undergo it. At what point in your life did you realize that it had a grave impact in your life?
It's a long story. I never questioned FGM. I knew it was a painful thing. It's like I almost wanted to go through it when I was at that age. But of course, there was no way of me giving any consent, so that's even a wrong thing. But like somehow in my mind, I thought it's a must. I'll have to go through. So, but then and then I grew up knowing every other Muslim woman and girl is cut. But the difference is, like us Somalis do this worst type because of our culture. But there's that other one that is milder, that is easier, that is like the required one. This is what I grew up in. And when one time I had conversation with an Indian friend of mine in campus, and FGM comes up and this girl is shocked. She's shocked. She's like, I've never heard of it. I'm like, no. And like, you guys, us guys do a bad one. That's why we have this and that complication. So like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'm talking about this cut, when you guys do this mild one, as guys. And then this lady was like, I don't know what you're talking about. For me, FGM is done by savages, not by dumb people, by people who don't believe in Allah. I don't think a Muslim should be doing, and till now it was my turn to get shocked. Yeah. Excuse me? So you're not cut? And she was like, she's not cut. And I'm like, huh? How? So that was the very first shock in my life, that not all Muslims cut. So it was this illusion I was in. And maybe, I always say this, if I never had that conversation that day, I would have come out, had a daughter, Allah forbid, and maybe cut her, because then maybe the only thing would be I would have started looking for, who knows that Islamic one. But we know there is no link between this practice and Islam. It has nothing to do with Islam. So that was the point of beginning to question. So who is on the right? This lady is in hijab. We fast Mondays and Thursdays together. We pray. I was brought up knowing her prayers won't be accepted. So who is on the right? And I even voiced that, and I said, you're not even a complete Muslim then. Your prayers won't be accepted. And this girl called the other Muslim ladies, of course, who were not cut, and there was a kamkunji to just now question, where is the evidence? I didn't have any evidence. I just stood ground. But that didn't end there, because I kept questioning, now who is on the right? Then when women went to Beijing and FGM was identified as one of the violations, I came across a document that said, FGM, Muslims think it is actually in their religion, but it is only a sunnah. Then, of course, now we know it's not. And the more we call it that name, the more we are even earning sin. So I was like, come on. So this painful thing that they made me go through is only sunnah? Who has forced me to fast Mondays and Thursdays? Who has ever forced me to pray duha? Who has even ever asked me, have you prayed two rak'ats before dhuhr and after? Nobody. Why was I made? So that was the point of beginning now to question. But there was no Google, there were no write-ups around it. So I struggled through that until 11 years later, when I really delved into it and understood it had no link with Islam, absolutely, and now even had an opportunity to educate community to abandon.
Well, from your experience, you've used a lot of your personal experience in fighting and championing against FGM. Tell us some of the great achievements, you look back and you say, I have done something.
Yeah, so from the time of realizing that this thing had nothing to do with Islam and not all Muslims cut, it has always been one of these very constant ring on my head. And every time it came, I would ask myself, or I'll talk to Allah and I'm like, Allah, show me the way. I will work on FGM. So it's been a constant pain, constant ring, just wondering, what am I going to do about this? So the day I saw an opening in an organization who actually headhunted me, they headhunted. So I didn't even see any advert or anything. So they came and they're like, we're looking for a program officer to work on FGM abandonment. Nikafanya sajda. I just made a sajda. I'm like, yes, now I'll take on and to go head on. So from that day, I decided that program had to have an Islamic face. And what I mean by this is FGM needed to be questioned from Islamic perspective. Because if the community thinks it is Islamic, whatever you go and tell them, it has praying, it has this, okay, no problem, but it's Islamic. That one thing, point you won't be able to move away from. So we had to really question, is it Islamic? Does it have basis? Does it actually go against any Islamic teachings? And alhamdulillah, I pride myself for having been the first person to have crafted a religious-oriented approach to address FGM and having co-authored a book to actually delink FGM from Islam. So besides the very many conversations, the very many community entry, the very many personal one-to-one people I have talked to, some of them whose daughters I have saved, but I think the greatest gift has been I gave my all, 5 years of putting my heart and soul out there, and I pride myself for having taken up that challenge. And I say alhamdulillah for that opportunity.
This brings me to the next question. You have co-authored many books, you are a writer, and you've written a very interesting poem known as The Cut. What inspired that?
The cut actually came from a point of actually realizing one of my greatest supporters in the family was no longer with me.
Yeah.
Because my sister, who I shared a lot of things with, because it's not an easy thing. I always had, and the greatest critics of my work have always been from my family. But this one sister of mine understood what I did. So I thought. But this one time, I'm from the field, 2 weeks away, I'm very tired. I haven't even gotten to office or not home. I'm just from Wajir direct. I'm carrying all my bags. And she gives me a call and says, today we cut so-and-so's daughters. But we only did the sunnah. That was those were her granddaughters. That just felt like the world had left me. It's like I was so alone. Or something like my clothes had been removed and I found myself standing naked in a market. All of a sudden, I felt so alone. I felt so vulnerable. And so as I walked into my office, of course, I cried and I wailed. I really wanted to resign that day. But unfortunately, my boss was in office, so he came, brought me water, tissue. We talked through it, and he was like, don't worry. Very many people, great people, who really had great message, had the greatest critics from their own families. Look, even the stories of the prophets. That really gave me the impetus. And so as I sat down there, overlooking the traffic police, seeing vehicles, admiring people who had no worry about FGM, everything came down, cascaded down. So that poem is as raw as I wrote it. Very raw. I hope it actually says it conveys the message.
Yeah. It actually brought tears to my eyes because as I was doing my research, I read it and it touched me. I haven't been through it, but it's a very sad situation that we have in the country and all over the places they're practicing, despite there being a ban, so many bans, so many laws have been brought in. But here we are as Muslims, as the Somali community especially, they're still practicing it in the dark when we know it is not right. Is there a day that will come that FGM will no longer be a topic of discussion?
Inshallah, even right now, there are a couple of people who have stopped it. My own daughter is not going to be cut, so that you can take as an example. But I think the day people discover true Islam, the day people want to put true Islam on the table and want to practice it, that is the day we'll stop, because we'll uphold women's rights, we'll uphold the sanctity of the human body. So we will not play around with cutting organs, because you cut organs, you have blood on your hands, that we know. So the day we want to uphold Islam, that is the day this thing is going to end. And for as long as FGM is continuing, we still half-baked Muslims. We are still stamping and still ridiculing and still hating on organs Allah created that have functions, healthy organs that have functions. So I look forward and I say yes, inshallah, one day, because in Islam we know wrong is but the moment The moment this thing is wrong, there's no justification, no excuses around it.
How supportive has the Muslim community been in your venture? Especially, you're fighting against a norm that is there and you're coming from that same community, And of course, a lot of people must be talking against you. How supportive have the elders and men from northeastern area been in your fight?
Elders and men and even the scholars from that region still have time to come around, because you see, they have not dropped from the sky. The fact that they are an elder, they are a sheikh, doesn't make them different. They were brought up in this same culture. They have to be able to have an opportunity to question this thing. You remember, if I didn't have that conversation, it doesn't matter whatever number of universities I would have gone to, because still there was this thing that I thought that was me, that was what defined me. So they have to come to that point of realizing. They might be reading the ayah about the sanctity of the human body, but they don't know that in their back that their daughters are being cut. They are not linking the two. So they have to come to that realization. So we need to continue having these conversations with them, because when you are socialized in a certain way, it's not easy. It's not like taking this beautiful glass of juice. No, it's not. Someone has to have this constant questioning and be able to have the ability to be able to be in a position to now link the two. So I will not blame them 100%, but I would want them to really take up the mantle of being the heads, of being the fathers, of being the protectors, and of being the guides. Because if you are a religious scholar, you have Islam in your hands. So they need to be complete guides. So, and right now, because the conversation is all over, they cannot claim, they cannot continue sitting on their butts and saying, it is socialization. No. So they need to move faster than we are. FGM, I think and I believe is gonna die. It's going to end. All we are doing is be catalysts. We just want to fasten and hasten and just so that we save more girls. Because the more we delay, every single day in the world today, 6,000 girls are being cut. Every single day, so you can imagine.
It is a very sad situation, and we will be going for a short break. I actually broke down. This is a very sad situation in the country. Well, we will be taking a short break. Do not move a muscle. As in the next session, we will get to know Maryam Sheikh on a more personal level.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Welcome back, my lovely viewers. With me, I have the lovely Maryam Sheikh, a lady who underwent the cut known as female genital mutilation at the age of 6. Today, she has dedicated her life in standing up for girls and fighting against FGM. Well, in this session, we get to know Maryam Sheikh on a more personal level. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, we know you as being the champion for fighting against female genital mutilation. Apart from that, what do you like to do for fun?
Thank you. I think I fight a lot of things, not just FGM, but I think I'm a very fun-loving person. I like entertaining myself. I like watching movies that are based maybe on true stories that are very inspirational.
Yeah.
I love movies that are based on women's struggles. I love stories that are, movies that are, and we don't have very many, but maybe very great personalities from history. And I do like watching, like weekends on Sundays, watching with my daughter, because now she's the one who's there, but even when my son was there, now he's in secondary, we used to watch the children's movies together, like Lion King, and sing, you'll find us singing. I also love reading, and I love reading novels. I love reading serious material, but not as much as I would love. So that's why I say I love entertaining myself. So my getaway from all the struggles, all the things I struggle with, because when you're in the human rights arena, it's a very heads-on all the time. There's something to bang your head. It's a news item on TV. There's something here. There's something happening in the neighborhood. So there's always something, and you need that getaway, and that is my escape.
Which is very interesting, mashallah. You know, apart from the good work you do, you also have a social life.
Yeah, and I love cooking and trying out new recipes. And now I have a chef in the making in the house, 7-year-old, who keeps saying by the time she's 10, she wants to know all the ways of making cakes. So we try new things from YouTube with her. I said it's fun always just having a mess.
So
over
it's a
Sundays.
mother-daughter relationship, which is very beautiful, mashallah.
I call her my number one girlfriend.
Oh, so. That is so sweet.
Yeah, all girlfriends. No, don't worry about the age difference and you know the relation, but yeah.
Which brings me to the next question. You know, you're a mother, you're a wife, and here you are, you're also working. How do you strike a balance between, you know, family life and your work life?
I think before the world got to even getting that concept of balancing work life, you know, like work-life balance thing, it's always been a struggle. Yeah. I started work in the refugee camp. So in the refugee camps, like you're in boarding, so you're there, you're out there. I actually made a mental decision to leave, to come for my master's and get married. I didn't even have anybody in my life, but that was just one thing I was focusing on then. So, and you see, I had to leave a job to be able to do this. But nowadays, you know, many organizations they have realized that it's important to do the work-life balance. What has really helped me personally is, first of all, having very supportive family. I come from a very large family. I have very many sisters. I have very many nieces. I have very many brothers. So that social safety net, like I want to travel out of the country, I call up people, my niece can come or my sister can come to stay at home. Also that, like the house help, our house managers. And I have a very amazing lady who's been with me from like when my baby was small until now. And so I think I've always had people who are very supportive. And then of course, once the organizations realized that it was important to give women time to breastfeed and time to take care of kids, and if you were going, let's say, for a workshop and you had a small baby, there was an option to now carry a person to help you, and the organization would pay for even their lodging. Not every organization does, but I think I like that culture of where organizations are picking up that. So it's not been easy, and until now it's not easy to live like I'm traveling tomorrow and my heart is in pieces. So it's always something you have to deal with, but then again you put safety nets of people, and I've been so blessed. Thanks to my late father who had very many children, I still keep, like, the circle is still going. We're like the third generation. I'm even grandmother too. My dad is grandfather number 3. So, because if my niece's kid has another kid and that kid has another kid, I'm almost, like double grandmother. So yeah, I always have support, and that has really helped me, and it's very important. And maybe that's why Islam also says keep Silatul Rahma,
keep your kin,
yeah, it's very, very important. Yeah,
Alhamdulillah, and you're lucky, because a lot of women out there, and even girls who are watching, they're wondering, how do you manage to have a job at the same time? Here you are, you're having kids, you have a husband, you don't know what to do. But for you, the secret is keeping next to your relatives, which is a good thing. I guess that is a tip one can ride on.
Yeah.
Well, let's go a little bit into your educational journey. MashaAllah, you are the first woman in 1989 to attend university from the northeastern region. Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, I think a lot of people should share that bit of glory, not just me, but I think the main ingredient was myself. I have always had a thirst, an unquenchable thirst for study. School for me was the heartbeat, was everything. When I was much smaller, now in primary, I was actually sent off with my cousin. And when I was being sent off with my cousin, I was supposed to help her. Just like as I'm talking about having help from relatives, I was supposed to help her with her household work. But Alhamdulillah, it's she and her husband who decided to take me to school. They gave me this great gift. I lived in a small village. I used to look after goats. I used to pound maize so that I can have the uji after school. I used to, get water and firewood and everything. I did all chores that is very nomadic and very normal to a village life, not because anyone was punishing me, but because that was our lifestyle. But Alhamdulillah, they gave me this great gift. So I had this task. I remember before I joined school for like almost 2 terms, as I kept on begging and nagging them about going to school, I would overlook the school and sometimes even wish I was the one who was being punished. When I see a kid outside a class kneeling down, I would even wish to just be in school, even if I'm the one being punished. So that much I had that drive. But I had also very supportive teachers all the way from primary. Like we were 50 kilometers away from Garissa in a very remote village. We never even used to get vehicles, but my teachers would go and get me books from the library in Garissa. That library also built me and very supportive. Then the whole issue around when I joined secondary, initially I actually thought my school life will end in class 8 because there was no one who was able to pay fees. But there's this one woman whose shoulders I stand on, my auntie. She's late. She never had education on her own, never had kids of her own, but she brought up very many kids and schooled them. And so she decided, well, she will struggle her way through and take me to secondary. So but then by the second term, a Young Muslim Association came through, and they said they are going to sponsor the top 5 or top 10, I don't remember. I was the number 1.
Wow.
That was my position from Form 1 till I finished secondary. So I knew here now, it was up to me to now work for university. And the thing that encouraged me more was there was very strong NEPUSA, Northeast Professionals University Students Association, sorry. They used to come around to schools to do mentorship. And these guys came, and when they mentioned, I'm from Wajir High, I am, by the way, they were all men, no lady. So I'm from Wajir High, I'm from Garissa High, I'm from Sheikh Ali in Mandera. In me, there was something that was awakened. There was a new nag, new, you know, like need to now make it also. If they could make it, I can make it. So I had that star now. And I remembered faces of the people who first came. One of them whose face was always there was a guy, he's a lawyer, he's called Alan Daoud. And he's always been, if he made it from whatever school that was in Northeastern, I don't remember which was the school, but that team that he came with that time all inspired us. And so then I started working towards that, imagining I was in university, imagining what course I was going to do. And I think really that push, that drive, that personal interest just gave me. And of course, the school was very poor. We didn't have enough things. Like the day before we did our chemistry practicals is when we were now seeing this is a big car, this is a test tube, because we used to do things theoretically. So you can imagine coming from that and then really making it. And I think it was a big thing. And yeah, but I give the honors to everyone.
Alhamdulillah, everyone had a part to play, I guess.
Yes, they did. Yeah.
So after university, you landed a very lucrative job, a job that most girls and women out there want to get at the UN. How did you land there?
I didn't even start with the UN. I started from NGOs. But what used to happen is my home village is in the Dab, Liboi, and that side towards the border. And this is when now the Somalia, the demise of Somalia, and people were fleeing from the war. And anytime campus closed, and then I was in campus during the early 90s. This I have to mention, because I pride myself also for taking part in the struggle for Kenya's second liberation. I'm very happy about that, because like Section 2A, when it was to be repealed, I was part of the people who were doing riots in Moi University. I even had dislocation on my foot. And yeah, so because of that struggle, and university students used to take part, campus would be closed for a long time. And so every time they closed, I'll go volunteer in the camps, registering people, just volunteer. And that way, I fell in love with humanitarian world. They fell in love with NGO work and all that. And so by the time I was finishing campus, I had this number of recommendation letters. I wasn't being paid, but I had recommendation letters that actually landed me my first job. So I would like to tell young people, when you have time, volunteer. Right now, the refugees are getting in through Marsabit. Please go there, volunteer. You will be able to register people, and it gives you immense pleasure. And so I began work from an NGO, and I moved the ladder. And I worked with UN, worked with WFP, then UNHCR. Then while I was there, I decided, Hapa, I'm going to get forgotten. I have now to go look for a husband and do my master's. So after my master's is when now I joined. I think the reference you're making is UNICEF. But before UNICEF, I was with this organization that gave me the opportunity to work on the thing that I love most, protecting girls from FGM. So yeah, there was no one who held my hand. It was just, I think, those papers and having the courage.
And your hard work.
Courage, yeah. And then you see an advert, not fearing, just having the courage, putting in your application. Apply. They call you for the interview, read about the organization, prepare your mind and heart, and you're like, what's the worst that can happen? Even now, I don't have that job, but I want to dare getting it. So you tell your mind, it's put in those positive vibes, and you go there, do the interview, and alhamdulillah. Yeah, so I'm very lucky. I was able to go through that, but no, nobody held my hand. It was through sheer hard work, having the right experience, and having the courage, because most of us sometimes we fear even applying.
A lot. Well, from your educational life, you left this lucrative job working at the UN and ventured into politics. You vied for the women's representative seat in 2017 and unfortunately lost. Tell us what inspired your step in from leaving this job, and here you're jumping into politics.
Yeah, unfortunately it's Garissa that lost, not me. But then the thing that inspired is I have always been on this other side of development.
Yeah.
And being the mouthpiece of the community, but yet they had not given me the mandate. I just wanted to be on this other side and work on their mandate, but on the same field of women and girls and young people and all the uplifting them, because that's what the seat is about. I was part of the first caucus that crafted this seat, so I understood what it stood for. I had the networks, I had the necessary experience, and I had the heart, so it was just changing my seat from being employed by others to being employed now by the people themselves. That's what I wanted, but they failed to employ me.
Well, inshallah, we will try again, and we are here to support you.
Inshallah.
Thank you so much, Maryam, for coming on the show. And we, as the Horizon team, wish you all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, we have come to the end of the meet and greet show. I am inspired, and I'm sure that you are. From Maryam Abdikadir Sheikh's story, we learn that empowering and standing for what is right, in this case, fighting against female genital mutilation, is our sole duty as human beings. I have been your host, Aisha Khan. Goodbye for now. Ma'assalam fi amanillah. Until next time.
Everything I have, everything I own, everything I eat is thanks to you. Every breath I take, every bird I hear, every smile I see is thanks to you. Alhamdulillah, 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 all thanks is to Allah. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah.
The Meet and Greet Show with Aisha Khan was shot on location at the Monarch Hotel, your one-stop halal certified hotel.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.